Hello folks, welcome back to Reality Check with Arvind Swaminathan. You know me by now. Now, ever since that second part of the Adani saga, another of these characters has thrown his hat in the ring. A big rumpus was created by this entry, one Mr. George Soros. His name keeps appearing every now and then as a very nasty sort of old man who seems to think he owns the world and the world should do exactly what he wants it to do, not what they want to do. No. Now, it doesn't make sense to me because he's supposed to be an American, he's supposed to live in the US, and the US keeps harping on about democracy, free world, freedom and so on. Now, I don't think that's freedom. You remember what I said in my videos on Ukraine about 11 months ago? Americans seem to think that you're only free if you're under the American jackboot. What they don't understand is freedom means the right to choose their own way. And this is something George Soros does not seem to want. Now, what is George Soros' background? Where did he make his money? He's known as the man who broke the Bank of England. Yes, you got it right, the Bank of England. And yet, how did he do it? A variation of short selling. But how did he know the Bank of England was going to really go down? How did he know that the British pound or pound sterling was going down to very low levels, relatively speaking? And who would lend him such huge amounts? I think he borrowed something like $10 billion worth. So, why? How did he know? The same things come back to haunt you again. The Rothschilds, you remember 1815? Short selling of British consuls. 1929, the total lack of currency anywhere. So how did people write off their debts or pay back their debts? By selling whatever they had. What? Their houses, their businesses, their stocks, their shares, you name it. At throwaway prices. Similarly, that same creepy feeling, you know, the claw in the background, the one pulling the strings. Yes, you heard right, the Rothschilds again. An absolutely fresh candidate. This should be about 30 years ago, to be another one of their front men. So they help him to make all this money, and he does what they tell him. Except he's the face in front. Which is, as I said earlier, the Rothschild formula. Whatever you do when it comes to finance, making money or losing it, you can't get away from that family. Right? Now, suddenly, with all these things going on, the Adani problem, his shares suddenly lose value overnight almost. Somebody buys, makes a lot of money. Short selling again, the same formula. So who made money? And who triggered that Hindenburg report in the first place? From what it appears to be, this man may have triggered it. He may be in league with Hindenburg. We don't know. But the suspicions are there. Whether we like it or not, this is where it may have come from. Now the strange thing is this. His Open Society Foundation is known to be involved in all sorts of regime change operations all over the place. It may have happened in smaller countries. Nobody knows about it because it didn't create too much of a stir. But There are times when one suspects, because this Open Society Foundation functions parallel or in parallel with the CIA. It does almost exactly the same things as the CIA does, to make everybody come in line with US policy, to help the US. Again, we go back to what's good for General Bullmoose is good for the rest of the world, Bullmoose being the USA. Now, in this case, Bullmoose happens to be George Soros, or so it seems. What he wants is what he would like his entire operation to go through and bring about. Now let's see what he does. He has about 50 or 60 different foundations wandering around the world. He has billions to fund them. And what do? They destabilize countries. They destabilize businesses or competitors. To what aim? To bring them in line with US policy? Now, is it US policy or is it Rothschild policy? He doesn't like India, obviously. Otherwise, he wouldn't have brought these things out in the open. Now, let's see what he's done in India. His Open Society Foundation has offices in India, and the vice president of that particular organization in India, one Mr. Salil Shetty, is seen at Shaheen Bagh, which is anti-government, just when the American President Donald Trump is due to visit here. He starts this off in Shaheen Bagh, which culminated in riots in northeast Delhi. He's also seen at the farmers' rally or the farmers' agitation. He may have been involved in the hijab and the halal certification confrontation in Karnataka and Kerala. And all of a sudden, we find him hobnobbing with Rahul Gandhi in his Bharat Jodo Yatra. Now, there is that direct link which I spoke about the last time. The link between foreign hand and the Congress party and Rahul Gandhi. Now, this is not new, it's not strange. Why? One of the people working in New York, in his New York offices of the Open Society Foundation, Amrit Singh. You remember her? Nalanda University, guest faculty, the youngest daughter of Manmohan Singh, the former Prime Minister of India. Now, what is that organization hobnobbing with Rahul Gandhi for? Openly. I see that link very clearly. So you see, it's not just the Amartya Sen, Mrs. Sen's background, because she is one of the top-ranking members of the Rothschild banking family from London. She is the daughter of the third Baron. So there you go, a very central figure in that family. What else? But the plot really thickens when you find who are the, how shall I put it, the advisory board or the advisory panel of this Open Society Foundation. And a familiar name crops up again. You remember that Nalanda University, Amartya Sen, the same one. What's he doing there as well, along with Amrit Singh, daughter of Manmohan Singh, the former Prime Minister of India? So there is your direct link with the Congress Party, Rahul Gandhi, Manmohan Singh, and the Rothschilds. One side the Rothschild, the front George Soros and his organization working in India to mess up all sorts of things. Now, did George Soros' organization, this Open Society Foundation, did it fund the PFI, which is now banned in India, which was conducting so many anti-national activities? Which other organization has it been sending money to? Did it donate to the Rajiv Gandhi Foundation, which means the Sonia Gandhi, Rahul Gandhi clique? Now, where is all this money going? What is it doing in India? And remember one thing, don't ever underestimate the effect of the foreign hand. It's a nasty thing. The Americans scream blue murder when they say, the Russians are interfering in our elections. Or the Chinese are messing about in our elections. And yet they've been doing it with impunity all over the world for decades now. When are they going to grow up and say, okay, look, you conduct your elections, we'll conduct ours, and we won't interfere with each other? Let us understand the true meaning of the word freedom and a free society. That a free society does not mean under the American jackboot, but the freedom to choose their own way and to live their own way. If India wants to be communist, so be it. If it wants to be part of the BJP, so be it. But I'm pretty certain India does not want to be an Islamic country, which is what Rahul Gandhi and co. seem to be wanting to do. Now recently there was this Khalistani mess up in Punjab a couple of days ago. Who funded that? Who provided money or funds not just for this Khalistani movement in India today, but also the farmers' agitation and Shaheen Bagh and all this unrest down south with your hijab and your halal certification scheme and so on? Who's been funding all this? Where has the money been coming from? A lot has been coming via shell companies. Yes, but who put the money there in the first place? Was it George Soros? Was it the CIA? Or was it some Middle Eastern or Pakistani government that put the money in? So you see, again, it's not just George Soros, but the brains behind George Soros. You can see he is not the one himself, because even a small little message he has to read out. Okay, he may be of Hungarian origin. Maybe he doesn't understand English quite so well, though he should by now, having lived there most of his life. And yet, he still has to read even the smallest little notes out. Does that make sense? This is precisely why I still believe there's a hand in the background. You know, the puppet master pulling the strings. And this is where suspicions of the New World Order come in. And who are the people concerned? Well, we know as the Rothschilds are concerned, wherever finance is concerned, they're in it, right up to here. Then there's the farmer lobby. They tried that in India, they failed. Because the government of India stood firm. That is the Rockefeller family. Because they're the ones who used to own, maybe they still do, the majority share in Pfizer's, the biggest drug company. The government of India was vindicated. Their stand was vindicated because about 2 months ago, was it a month ago, the Supreme Court in the US ruled that the Moderna and the Pfizer vaccine were not vaccines. Because A, their efficacy was too low, and B, there were far too many side effects. And therefore it has not been properly tested. Not in animals and certainly not in human beings. So why were they foisting it on India? Because if the government of India had succumbed and fallen for it, they could have then marketed all over the world, saying, look, the government of India has taken it on, So why shouldn't you? They would have made trillions. But of course they couldn't. So the farmer lobby is mad at us. Well, they're mad not at me, but at Modi. Why? Because he stood in the way of trillions. Now, as if that isn't enough, the weapons lobby is mad at Modi. Why? He has gone after the weapons production units and told DRDO and HAL and everybody else, get up off your behind and start doing your business, doing your job. What is the result? The Tejas, the light combat aircraft, is in the air. We have at least 2 squadrons of them in India. The Mother Mark II is on its way, which is much better. Even the Americans want to know what makes that one tick. There have been inquiries for this from all sorts of countries. Argentina, South Africa, Brazil, Malaysia has shown interest. The Philippines want to buy. What is it? There's one of the Southern African countries. Is it Botswana? That's it. Botswana want to buy them for their air force. There are so many countries showing a deep interest in these, which the Americans are very mad at. Why? Because nobody wants their F-16s anymore. The Europeans are mad because the Gripen. Nobody wants those anymore. Why? They're good, yes, but they're much too expensive. And the Indian version is way within their pockets. Why wouldn't they go for it? And then the AMCA. Boy, that'll be something else when it comes out. It's still in the development stage. But when it comes out, it's going to leave a big hole in Lockheed Martin and all these other companies. So, the whole world wants our BrahMos missiles, which is a cruise missile, which is very accurate and it's got a fairly long range as well. Well, there are versions which are short, medium and long range types. There are also those which are reusable. They drop their load and come back. What could be better than that? Now you see, things have begun to happen. And even worse is the fact that India has begun to produce small arms as well. And when we do that, all the imports are cut. So all your Western European and your American arms suppliers don't know what to do anymore. Where do they sell their weapons? Without creating wars somewhere else. So you see, the arms lobby is mad, the pharma lobby is mad, and the fact that we want to live our own lives makes the Western Europeans and the Americans mad at us again. Why? They would like us under their thumbs. Under the Congress, we were still a colony. You controlled that one family and you controlled India. Now you can't do that anymore. The problem is that Modi is not for sale. And they don't like it. Even worse, the ruling political Maharaja families, they hate Modi because he cut off all their avenues of looting the country. And he's gone after them with a vengeance. Not only if weapons are produced in India, what happens? Well, the first problem is the weapons lobby or the arms lobby. They go for a 6. Where do they sell their weapons? India used to be a huge importing market, an export market for them. Where do they market now? Do they really have to create wars somewhere else? The fact that We are now doing things for ourselves. Doesn't help them. They don't like that. But then why would they? And why would we continue to keep importing when we can do the job ourselves? Now, local people or people in India hate Modi because what he has done is, A, he's gone after all the avenues of looting the country and shut them off. More important, he started developing every state that he can, and quickly. He has shaken that sleeping giant awake, the sleeping giant that was India. And he said, okay, wakey, wakey, guys. Time to get up and show us what you can do. And boy, are they showing us. They're showing the whole world. This is what's making everybody mad. Because the opposition parties will never get a look in anymore if he gets back once more. In 8.5 years, India has developed far more than they did in 67 years under the Congress and other rules, mainly Congress rule. Why would people in India want to go back? Add to that the fact that India is a very young country. I think the average age is about 29. It has a huge pool of talent in the form of educated youth, engineers, doctors, nurses, you name it. What would they do? An even more important point is all the IITs and IIMs in India in the past were training graduates for jobs in the US and in Europe. All that is shut off because now they work here and they find something to do here. We have a huge number of startups every year, more than anywhere else in the world. Why do they need to go anywhere? Which means that the old refrain of, oh, the brain drain from India doesn't hold true anymore. Everybody in the US and in Western Europe are tearing their hair out. How do we lure them here? But if they've got something in their own country, why shouldn't they? Is that something for you to get mad about? Why should they have to go anywhere when they can do everything here? This is why everybody is mad at Modi, except the general public in India. They love him. And I hope to go on loving him. Now we go back to George Soros. One of the things they all go in for is disinformation, just like this Hindenburg report. What was Salil Shetty, the vice president of George Soros' Open Society Foundation, doing with Rahul Gandhi in his Bharat Jodo Yatra? Was it to tell him, okay, make a fuss in Parliament while we spread disinformation all over? And one of the things which have been spread around is that Modi knew about COVID-19 2 years before it happened, and that he had started importing testing kits and masks in 2018, which is a load of rubbish. None of us knew except possibly Pfizer's and Moderna people who had vaccines, and I use the word rather loosely. Vaccines ready within 6 months of the outbreak. How? You see, the disinformation campaign has begun, and we in India must be prepared for a whole lot more. For instance, the Khalistani agitation in Punjab a couple of days ago. Amritpal Singh and his followers threatened the police openly and made the Punjab government and the police bow down to them. Why? Is the Punjab police and the Punjab government that gutless that they stand up to a bunch of criminals? Or a bunch of people who want to secede from India? Well, if they want a Khalistan, let them find a place somewhere else. not on Indian soil. Thank you very much. But as I said, we have to be prepared for this because this is going to be a regular occurrence. They've shown their hand. Many of these, or most of these, to begin with, are dry runs. Running up to the election in 2024, that's next year. They're hoping to take over from Modi. I hope they don't succeed. I hope the voter in India has sense enough and strength enough to tell them to take a long walk off a short pier. Or in other words, let them drown themselves somewhere else. We don't want them here. Earlier, Narasimha Rao used to tell people in India, if you think you're intelligent and capable of doing things and want to do things, get out, we don't want you here. Today, in today's India, Modi is telling you, if you can do things, stay here. You don't like me, then get out. Which I think is fair enough. Because he's providing something for people to do here. He's giving the correct atmosphere or workplace for people to do things here. In India, for India, by Indians. This is what true democracy and true freedom means. Please try and understand that. This is what our founding fathers wanted. And I don't include Nehru in that list because he is not one of my favorites. And he is not somebody who's done anything for India. He's done a great deal against India. Just like the Congress Party has since 1947. So please, think a little, folks. Try and understand. We needed somebody like Modi 40 years ago. Unfortunately, you had other people who messed things up royally. When Modi is here, give him a chance, give him a helping hand. If you want to see a free India, a vibrant India, and an India going forward, you know what to do. Thanks, folks. I hope you like this one. Please like, subscribe, pass on to your friends, ask them to pass it on to their friends and relatives and to your groups and their groups. Thank you. The next time we'll go into a little more about Modi and what he's done for India and the people of India. When you heard that, you'll understand the difference between Modi and everybody else. Why we need somebody like Modi. He's not so young anymore. So while you're able to benefit from his leadership, give him a helping hand. Ciao, folks. See you next time.